Hey, it's Dr. John Terry, the Black Belt Leader, and welcome to the Black Belt Leadership Podcast, where each week I'm giving you tips, tools, insights, and resources to help you become a better version of who you are and what you do as you discover, develop, and deploy your own Black Belt leader within. Hey, in case you didn't know it, it's World Series time. The Yankees and the Dodgers are the last two teams standing after the season's over, and right now they are slugging it out in a best of seven series to kind of determine, well, not kind of determine, to fully determine who's going to be the 2024 World Champion of Baseball. Now, by the time this podcast is posted, I'm guessing we're going to know the outcome because right now the Dodgers are ahead. Now, if you've tuned into the series for any period of time and you've taken an opportunity to watch, you'll see some amazing things. There's some great plays and great people playing, but as I've begun to watch a little bit of the World Series, I've taken a different look at what's going on there. And I think there's an interesting lesson that we can pull from the World Series to help us understand more about learning to lead ourselves well and make good choices. So if you have tuned in to any of the World Series, think about what you've seen. You've seen a stadium full of spectators excited to cheer on their respective team. On the field, what do you see? You see the competitors who are taking their turns at bat or in the field. You're also seeing the referees, the umpires, as they're referred to in baseball, who are making sure that the rules are followed, and they're also calling balls and strikes. Now, the groundskeeping team is also there to make sure that the field is in pristine condition, and in the event rain shows up, to cover that field and to protect it. So after the rain is over, they can pull the tarp back. The players can get back out on the field and keep playing the game. Now, when you get the opportunity to look in the dugouts and at first base and at third base, what do you see? You see coaches who are there to direct the action. They are telling the players when they're going to go out, when they're going to bat, when they're going to steal, when they're going to go from base to base, and they are giving guidance to the individual competitors that are on the field. You look in the skyboxes and what do you see? You see the owners, but in those skyboxes, you also see announcers and commentators. Now, in the production trucks in the back of the lot, what do you see there? You see the production crew. Camera operators are strategically stationed throughout the stadium, drones flying throughout the stadium, all bringing the action that comes into your homes or on the big screens right there at the stadium. Now, throughout the stadium, you're going to find stadium staff. What are they doing? Making sure the event runs smoothly. You're also going to find restaurant and souvenir vendors who are there to make sure that everything you need to eat or drink is provided, and all the souvenirs you want to take home from the game are available for you to purchase for a price. Also, if you look closely, you're going to find first responders, law enforcement, firefighters, and EMS workers there in the event there is a situation that they're needed. In the parking lot, what are you going to find? You're going to find, of course, the tailgaters, the people that show up early and stay throughout the game and make the game an experience. But in that parking lot, you're also going to find the parking staff, the shuttle drivers, and that occasional ticket scalper trying to unload the tickets they can't sell. And somewhere in the crowd, you're going to find the organ player, one of my favorite people at a baseball game, who is engaging with the crowd throughout the game as they're putting their keys on that Hammond organ. So when you take the time to look around, what do you see? A lot of folks doing a lot of different things, all doing all these different things at the same time. Each and every person has a different role to play in the game. You don't think about it. The fans are there to watch. The players are there to perform. The umpires are there to assure fair play. And the coaches are there to determine who plays what position, as well as the batting order for the teams. Now, the demands and the obligations of each person differs based upon the role they play, but so do the outcomes and the results that each person experiences. Everybody's there, but not everybody is playing the game the same way. I want to say that again. Everybody's there, but not everybody's playing the game the same way. Now, this is where I want to lean in and spend a few moments to help you answer this question. How are you playing the game? You know, the role you're playing in life is going to determine the demands that life places on you. Now, I want you to think about what I just said. The role you're playing in life is going to determine the demands life places on you. It's also going to determine the obligations other people place on you and the obligations you place on yourself, as well as the outcomes and the results you're going to experience for being in the game. Now, here's the important thing. You get to choose the role you play. Now, some roles are passive, some roles are semi-active, other roles are quite demanding. Some roles demand little of you other than showing up, while other roles demand that you constantly improve and develop yourself to become a better version of yourself every single time you show up to play the game. So let's take a moment and let's examine the roles of the people in the stadium. Now, first, there's the spectators. These are the people who are content to simply show up, sit down, and watch from afar. They what I call cheer and jeer from the seats in the stadium based upon what's happening on the field or on the court. Now, spectators are passive participants. Not a lot is required of them. They are simply showing up to be entertained, whether live in the stadium or watching via television. Now, think about a spectator. They can come and go as they want, and they do little, if anything, to actually influence or contribute to the outcome of the game. Nothing is required of a spectator other than they show up and fill an empty seat. Now, when you think about some spectators wish they were in the field. They wish they could be part of the team and they were actually playing the game. But rather than doing something about that wish, they've relegated themselves to passively sitting in the stands, removed from the action on the field, and they're simply watching passively as others play the game they wish they could be playing. Now, while some of those people have raw talent and ability, what's the difference between the spectator and the people on the field? The spectators have never developed that talent and that ability to world-class level. So they've got the opportunity to get the attention of a coach that says, hey, you've got a skill set I need on my team. I'd love to recruit you and have you contribute to our success. Remember, nothing is required of a spectator other than they show up and fill an empty seat. Now compare to the spectator, the competitor. These are the men and women who have taken the time to develop their skills, to hone their talents, and to stand out in such a way that they get noticed. They get recruited, they get the big paycheck, but then they have to do the things necessary so that when they show up on the field, they perform. So what had they done to get there? They put in the hard work that was required to become world class at their chosen art, profession, or trade. Right now, we're talking about baseball, but the same could be applied to basketball, football, soccer, hockey. You pick the sport. To be world class, you've got to do the things nobody else is willing to do to become what nobody else is willing to become, and that is the best of the best. When you look at the people playing in the World Series, those are individuals who have not only gotten to top level status, and they are top in class when it comes to who they are and what they do, they are committed to staying at that level so they can continue to play the game they love. Now, being a competitor is not a passive activity. Being a competitor demands that you be active, that you be intentional, and that you be focused so that you are ready to perform at a moment's notice. For the competitor, it's not just showing up on game day. It is doing daily what is required. So when game day is upon them, they can perform at the highest level and have an opportunity to contribute to the team's chances of winning. Remember, and I talk about it in my book, The Black Belt Secrets of Success, successful people do daily what unsuccessful people do sometimes or not at all. Now, for the competitor, it's not just about his or her individual talent or ability or their contribution. It's also about learning how to work together as a team. Each individual member contributing his or her part, but learning to work together in a collaborative process that leads to a team victory. Now, in the stadium, not only are there spectators and competitors, you're also going to find coaches in the stadium. Now, many of these coaches are former competitors themselves. Coaches serve an important role in how the game is played. What is that role? They are there to identify the individual players who they believe can contribute and in what role or capacity they can contribute. It is also the role of a coach to further refine and hone that player's skill to get them to an even greater level of success than they are right now. So coaches are daily evaluating their players' strengths and their weaknesses to determine where they can best serve and support the team, and challenging them to work on specific areas so that they can contribute on an ever higher level every single game. Now, coaches also serve another important essential role, and that's how they combine the individual talent of each player into a collective, collaborative effort. You know, teamwork makes the dream work. If you've ever played on a sports team, you've probably heard a coach say that. But for teamwork to make the dream work, it requires a coach who is a leader at assembling high performance teams by tapping into the collective strengths and talents of each individual player and molding that talent together so that as individuals, they're performing at the highest level, but as a team, they're performing as one team, working together for one purpose, and that's the win. Now, like the competitor, serving as a coach isn't a passive role, but it's not as active as that of the players that are on the field. The competitor plays probably the most active role in the process, but the competitor couldn't be as good as he or she is without the coach. Now, just like the spectator, the coach is watching the game. And if you're the coach, you're there watching the game, but you're also instrumental in the outcome. Coaches give back. They contribute in a meaningful way because they help other people reach their full potential. Now, being a coach also demands that you continue to develop yourself, to develop your team members, and more importantly, to develop a sense of community within a team. Coaches have to study the competition. They have to identify the strengths and weaknesses of the teams they're going to be playing to figure out how they're going to respond. Based upon what they've learned from studying the competition, they've got to determine how to properly position the team so that together they have the best chance of victory. So coaches are teachers, they're encouragers, they're cheerleaders, they're accountability partners, and sometimes when the players are having a hard time or they're struggling, they have to serve as a listening ear. Now, also on the field, you're going to find the umpires or the referees, depending on the sport and how those officials are called. The referees and the umpires, they govern the action on the field. They make sure the rules of the game are followed. The umpires and the referees are responsible for fairness and competition. Now, like the coach, that is a semi-active role. The referees are on the field, but unlike the competitors, they're passively observing the game. They're there and they're active watching, but they're not fielding, they're not catching the ball, they're not swinging the bat. They are simply there to make sure the rules are followed. And when the action is taking place, they got to make sure they're observing, but they're also out of the way so they don't interfere with the action taking place. But being an umpire, being a referee does require something of you. It does place a demand on you, and it requires that you know the rules of the game. It requires that you go through an annual certification process and that you be willing and committed to fairly and faithfully administering and enforcing the rules without showing favoritism. Now, think about it. While you get to watch the game as a referee or an umpire, you also are actively involved in the game's outcome. After all, you're calling balls and strikes. You're determining who's out as well as who's safe on base. You've got to also, as a referee or an umpire, be willing to ignore the noise of the crowd or the complaining of the coaches and the players when your judgment is challenged or they don't like the call that you made. Being a referee or an umpire is not a popular role, but it is essential for the fair application of the rules for both teams to make sure that the game is played in accordance with the rules so everyone has a fair chance of winning. Now, the last people I want to point at as we look at the stadium are the people in the supporting roles. You've got vendors, you've got staff, you've got law enforcement, first responders, EMS, you've got firefighters. Add to that, there's a production team, often in the parking lot, making sure the television broadcast goes off as planned. You've got timekeepers, you've got scorekeepers, you've got camera operators, you've got announcers, you've got commentators, and again, one of my favorites at the ball game, the organist. These individuals are there to make sure that everybody that attends is safe, secure, that they're fed and that they've got plenty to drink, that they're entertained and they're supported, and all the souvenirs and mementos they want to take home are available to them. Now, these roles are somewhat passive. They're active in a small, narrow band, but often only if they're called upon to participate in some supportive role. But each and every one of these individuals I've named all contribute in some way to the overall experience of the event. Now, some of these roles require specific talent or training. After all, not just anyone can be a firefighter, an EMS, or a first responder. But other roles, such as serving food or selling mementos or souvenirs, doesn't require a lot of talent or training other than a willingness to serve others and to greet other people with a smile. But think about all of those supportive roles. Every one of those behind the scenes roles that we often take for granted are necessary for that event to go off without a hitch. But when we need those individuals, here's what I can tell you. We appreciate it when they perform the task they were assigned to do. So let me ask you again, how do you play the game? Are you passively going through life as a spectator, willing to simply show up and be entertained with little or nothing required because you haven't taken the time to develop your skills or your talents so you can meaningfully contribute? Are you willing to just sit on the bench and watch other people do what you wish you could do because you're unwilling to develop yourself? Let me remind you of this. Being a spectator is easy. It requires nothing of you other than showing up. Now, sadly, this is where most people live their lives, operating far below their potential because they're not willing to do what successful people do. Or maybe, just maybe, you're a competitor. You're one of those individuals who's willing to daily hone your skills and your talents, to daily become a better version of yourself so that you can contribute at the highest level to your team or your organization's success. When you're working under the tutelage of a coach or a mentor, that individual who is constantly helping you learn, grow, improve, and to become a better version of who you are and what you do, you are a competitor. You can't wait for the next opportunity to show up, to get out on the field, to let people see this is what I can do to contribute and help the team win. But here's what I can tell you about being a competitor. It's not easy. And if it were easy, everybody would be a competitor. Why isn't it easy? Because it demands something of you. It requires that you daily commit to becoming a better version of yourself and every day becoming just a little bit better than you were the day before. But important to remember this, you can't be a champion if you're not a competitor. If you don't compete and win, you never get to wear the title of champion. Now, maybe, just maybe, you're not a spectator, you're not a competitor, but you're at a season of life where you're best suited to contribute your years of experience, your talent and ability, and all of the life lessons you've learned to help other people rise to their full potential. That's when you have the opportunity to step in the role of being a coach or a mentor. These are leaders who develop other leaders. That's what coaches do. Coaches look for and identify the black belt leader inside of each individual and help them fully discover, develop, and deploy it. A coach helps each individual player on the team develop his or her potential, and they work to help those individuals work with other fully developed players so they can cohesively perform as one. Now, being a coach is a demanding role because you are responsible for the success or the failure of other people. As a coach, as a mentor, as a leader, those you are leading, you are responsible for their success or their failure. Now, that may be a heavy role to place on you, and it may be a heavy burden to bear, but here's what I can tell you. Not only is it a heavy burden to carry, it is one of the most rewarding, supporting roles that you can ever assume. Being a coach is not just about success. It's not just about getting the win. It's about significance. As you build a lasting legacy of success by teaching other people how to lead themselves well, make good choices, rise to their full potential, become a world-class version of themselves and what they do, and learn how to pass that skill on to other people. The other valuable thing a coach teaches us is how to win and how to lose with dignity and respect. Now, when it comes to how you play the game, remember, umpires and referees are also needed. Yes, there is a need for individuals who make sure that everybody follows the rules. Now, it's been said many times that integrity is doing the right thing, even when nobody's watching. But the referees, the umpires of life are there to make sure the right thing is done and to call the balls and strikes of life, even when other people don't want to follow the rules. Now, I'm here to tell you, it is a selfless job being a referee or an umpire, and it's often a thankless job and a job that's full of criticism, except for those who appreciate the people who make sure everybody follows the rules. But here's what I'm here to tell you. If you're playing the game as a referee, as an umpire, it is a necessary role because that gives everybody a fair chance to play and to win. Now, maybe, just maybe, if you're not serving in the role of a spectator, a competitor, a coach, a mentor, an umpire, or a referee, maybe you're one of those individuals who is serving in the background so the game of life can go on without a hitch. Maybe you're at a place in your life where serving in a supporting role is how you best play the game, and that's okay. You know, I was recently in an organization in Pennsylvania, and I met a number of people there in supporting roles that were absolutely essential for this organization's decade of success. While I toured this beautiful complex, I met IT specialists. I met an amazing receptionist with an incredible smile that made you feel welcome when you walked in the door. I met customer service personnel. I met graphics designers. I met sales support teams. I met a mailroom clerk, and I met maintenance workers who all contributed in their own way behind the scenes to the success of this organization. Now, the leaders of the organization who were taking me on this tour made it a point to note the contribution of each of these individuals, to point them out, celebrate the wins they had helped the organization achieve because of their supporting role. And I love the fact that those leaders bragged on those supporting individuals and let them know that they were valued, how valuable were to the organization, and the value they contributed in the role that they played. So understand this, how you play the game matters. In life, in business, in success, in any organization, there are different roles. And with each of those roles, there are different demands. Now, some of those roles are going to require very little of you. Maybe it's just showing up, sitting down, and being a part of the audience. Others are going to demand more of you. And the more it demands, the greater the opportunity for success for you in your contribution. Now, you may be saying, John, I'm okay with being a spectator because I'm the customer and everybody else is performing for me. Well, that may be true at some level, but I want you to think about it this way. If you're just the customer, you're just the spectator, what are you contributing? You're contributing your money and the time you invested to earn it, but what are you getting in return? But understand this, if you want to rise to your full potential, you can't just be a spectator. You got to find some way to get more involved in the game. And let me leave you with this. Only competitors and coaches who win are given the championship ring. You know, I'm honored to have a United States Martial Arts Hall of Fame ring for my contributions to the martial arts community over the decades and being recognized in 2008 for my contribution there. I've had the opportunity to travel around the world wearing that ring. I've had an opportunity to meet with NFL Hall of Famers, NBA Hall of Famers, world champions that show off their ring, and I get to show off mine. That puts me in a unique audience. Now, why do I say that? Because the individuals who get to wear that championship ring have earned the right and the privilege to do so. How did they earn that right? They did the unspectacular work when nobody was looking in the daily preparation of doing what was necessary to hone their skill to world-class level. So when they showed up and competed, they dwarfed the competition so that when the lights came on, the cameras were looking at them and the audience was zeroed in on that ring, that stadium, that floor. They put on a spectacular performance that led to the win. Remember, only competitors and coaches get the ring. A spectator can get a championship t-shirt, but they got to buy it with their own money. So what about you? How you play the game is going to determine how you're going to be recognized and rewarded. So if I ask the question, how are you playing the game? What am I really asking? It's this: how much success do you want out of life? The amount of time, energy, and effort you contribute to becoming a world-class master of who you are and what you do is going to determine the success in life that you achieve. So here's my challenge. I would like you to discover, develop, and deploy your own black belt leader within. Commit to daily becoming a better version of who you are and what you do as you live your life with black belt excellence, striving to become the best of the best so you can contribute at the highest level, not only for yourself, but for the other people who are counting on you. I'm Dr. John Terry, the Black Belt Leader. Thanks for joining me, and have a great day.